Hey everyone, and welcome to the AP Lit version of Roosevelt's Fireside Chats. We're not by the fireside, although there is an electric fireplace over there, which is broken. And the birds are chirping outside, even though it's cold and miserable. But I'm still wearing my baseball pulled over, my baseball hat, because I'm missing some baseball right now. Sporting my Braves gear, you know. Can't watch it. I can watch old videos and wear my pullover. All right, so when last we met, which was on the Zoom meeting for Aaron's poetry project, Aaron, thank you for being so brave and going first. Those of us that were there decided we could do a couple of short stories a week and make that work. And then we got the bad news from the governor saying that we were in this crisis schooling mode for the rest of the year, which, it is what it is. My wife always says that to me. Jim, it is what it is. So I'm saying it is what it is, and we're going to get through it, and we're going to be okay. And it's not what you wanted for your senior year, and there's nothing I can say that's going to make that feel any better. Nothing I can say that eases that sting. Surely not, oh, it's no big deal, everybody, but, none of that malarkey you hear from adults sometimes. It is a big deal, and it is important. And Cameron, I know you wrote something really powerful about this situation to the class of 2020. And if you haven't seen Cameron's poem, ask her for it. Now, Cameron, I know you showed it to me, but your dad showed it to everybody, so I assume it was okay now. If not, just blame me and tell the kids to stop bugging you. But it was a powerful, powerful piece that will speak to a lot of your peers. All right, so we're going to do our start our section on short stories. All those S's, all that alliteration got me there. This is what we usually do in May. I like to do it in May because you're doing AP exams at the time in a normal school year. You'd be in and out of the classroom, and this would be something you can make up on your own. Now, with the overload that you're all getting from your teachers, trying to get the last bit of work in here before AP exams and before the year is over, it also will serve the same kind of purpose, that you can listen to the quick video, read along with me, read it on your own, and do a little bit of work, a few questions, and it won't be overwhelming. Yeah, my hair is getting really, really long. My wife put it up in a ponytail yesterday, and it really freaked out my youngest son. He Papa, take it down, take it down. Actually ran downstairs going, I don't like it, Papa, I don't like it. I'm scary enough as it is, I guess. I'm even scarier in a ponytail. All right, so I'm on page 340 of your lit book if you have it. Some of you said you didn't, Rachel. And there is a PDF up under topics. I'll mention that when I put the assignment up. There's a PDF of this under topics, short stories, if you don't have your book so you can read along. All right. This is John Updike's story, A&P, from 1961. The Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company is what A&P stood for. When I was a kid in Georgia, Rome, Georgia, we shopped at the A&P. It was our grocery store. It was our Wegmans. If Abby lived at the time in Georgia at the time, she'd say, yeah, I work at A&P instead of she works at Wegmans. We had an A&P. We had a Kroger later. The Kroger took the place of the A&P later, but when I was a kid, small kid, it was A&P, Winn-Dixie. I don't like that book. What's that book, Jenny? All About Winn-Dixie or Because of Winn-Dixie? Because of Winn-Dixie, yeah. My wife's in here working too. Say hi.
Hello.
There you go. And Piggly Wiggly. Piggly Wiggly was the third grocery store we had. So A&P is a grocery store. So A&P. In walks these three girls in nothing but bathing suits. I'm in the third checkout slot with my back to the door, so I don't see them until they're over by the bread. The one that caught my eye first was the one in the plaid green two-piece. She was a chunky kid with a good tan and a sweet, broad, soft-looking can with these two crescents of white just under it, where the sun never seems to hit at the top of the back of her legs. I stood there with my hand on a box of Hi-Ho crackers, trying to remember if I rang it up or not. I ring it up again, and the customer starts giving me hell. She's one of those cash register watchers, a witch about 50 with rouge in her cheekbones and no eyebrows, and I know it made her day to trip me up. She'd been watching cash registers for 50 years and probably never seen a mistake before. Now, again, I got to take you back in time so you understand. When you were working at Wegmans, honey, did you have scanning?
That's fighting words right
I
there.
guess that's a yes.
That's
Okay,
worth
okay.
divorce attorney.
All right. So way back when, before you could just take an item and go bleep, 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 and have the computer know the price of it, someone had to go through the store with a price gun and go. It's a big store. I got to keep going. That was just one side of one aisle. Anyway, you get the idea. And then when you brought it up to the cash register, and you had to use your paper bags because you had to double bag with the paper bags. We've gone full circle. Paper bags onto plastic, back to paper bags. The cashier had to pick up each item, look at it, and push blink, 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 blink on the cash register to put the item in 98 cents, 98 cents, $1.27, $1.27, cha-ching, 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 and then finally total, and then, you know, how much money you got, and then cash, and then change, all that kind of stuff, right? Before you could do your Wegmans shopper's ID and all that kind of stuff, and the computer did the work for you. So he says this is one who's probably been watching cash registers for 50 years, waiting to finally get someone to slip up so she can be mean to the cashier. I hope none of you are ever mean to service people, well, anybody really, but people are working hard to serve you. By the time I got her feathers smoothed and her goodies into a bag, she gives me a little snort in passing. If she'd been born at the right time, they would have burned her over in Salem. By the time I get her on her way, the girls had circled around the bread and were coming back without a push cart, back my way along the counters in the aisle between the checkouts and the special bins. They didn't even have shoes on. There was this chunky one with a two-piece. It was bright green and the seams on the bra were still sharp and her belly was still pretty pale, so I guess she got it. The suit. The suit. There was this one with one of those chubby berry faces, the lips all bunched together under her nose. This one, and a tall one with black hair that hadn't quite frizzed right, and one of those sunburns right across under the eyes and a chin that was too long. The kind of girl other girls think is very striking and attractive, but never quite makes it, as they very well know, which is why they like her so much. And then the third one, that wasn't quite so tall. She was the queen. She kind of led them, the other two peeking around and making their shoulders round. She didn't look around, not this queen. She just walked straight on slowly on these long, white prima donna legs. She came down a little hard on her heels, as if she didn't walk in her bare feet that much, putting down her heels and letting the weight move along to her toes as if she was testing the floor with every step, putting a little deliberate action into it. You never know for sure how girls' minds work. Do you really think it's a mind in there, or is it just a little buzz like a bee in a glass jar? But you get the idea. You got the idea. She had talked the other two into coming in here with her, and now she was showing them how to do it. Walk slow and hold yourself straight. She had on a kind of dirty pink beige, maybe, I don't know, bathing suit with a little nubble all over it. And what got me? The straps were down. They were off her shoulders, looped loose around the cool tops of her arms. And I guess as a result, the suit had slipped a little on her. So all around the top of the cloth there was this shining rim. If it hadn't been there, you wouldn't have known there could have been anything wider than those shoulders. With the straps pushed off, there was nothing between the top of the suit and the top of her head except just her. This clean, bare plane at the top of her chest, down from the shoulder bones, like a dented sheet of metal tilted in the light. I mean, it was more than pretty. She had sort of oaky hair that the sun and salt had bleached, done up in a bun that was unraveling, and a kind of prim face. Walking into the A&P with your straps down, I suppose, is the only kind of face you can have. She held her head high so her neck, coming up out of those white shoulders, looked kind of stretched, but I didn't mind. The longer her neck was, the more of her there was. She must have felt in the corner of her eye, me and over my shoulder, Stokesy in the second slot watching. But she didn't tip, not this queen. She kept her eyes moving across the racks and stopped and turned so slow it made my stomach rub the inside of my apron, and buzzed to the other two, who kind of huddled against her for relief, and then all three of them went up the cat and dog food, breakfast cereal, macaroni, rice, raisin, seasoned spread, spaghetti, soft drinks, crackers, and cookies aisle. From the third slot, I looked straight up the aisle to the meat counter, and I watched them all the way. The fat one with the tan sort of fumbled with the cookies, but on second thought, she put the package back. The sheep pushing their carts down the aisle, the girls were walking against the usual traffic, not that we have one-way signs or anything, were pretty hilarious. You could see them where Queenie's white shoulders dawned on them, kind of jerk or hop or hiccup, but their eyes snapped back to their own baskets and on they pushed. I bet you could set off dynamite in an A&P and the people would by and large keep reaching and checking oatmeal off their lists and muttering, let me see, was there a third thing? Began with A, asparagus. No, yes, applesauce. Or whatever it is they do mutter. But there was no doubt this jiggled them. A few house slaves and pin curlers even looked around after pushing their carts past to make sure what they had seen was correct. This just takes me back to A&P and when I was a kid in the 80s in the South, and women shopped with their hair up in curlers and in their house coats, so stereotypical, but it's what he describes. And you might stop and say, these girls went into the A&P in their bathing suits, just their bathing suits. It's no big deal. It really, people did that. My mom also parked outside the A&P, sent me in as a young kid, to go buy cigarettes for her. Vantage Blue 100 lights. I still know what they are. Those little blue circle on them. Looks like a bullseye kind of thing. Vantage Blue 100s. That's it. It's Vantage Blue 100s light. Never thought a thing about it. I went in. I gave them money. They gave me a carton of cigarettes. I brought them back out to my mom, who then smoked them in the car with the windows rolled up, and my lungs are probably like black tar at this point. That's why I get car sick in the car, because of the cigarette smoke on those long rides. And I smile. I never thought of this before, but in the situation we're in right now, my wife and I just went over to Walmart to go shopping for Marin. It's her birthday in a couple of weeks. And just like at Aldi, they have aisles. You can go up one aisle and down the other, up one and down the other. Enter here, do not enter. When's that ever been a thing? We had to go a certain way up an aisle in a store. Times, they are a-changing. But the point he makes is that all these folks catch a glimpse of them, and it jars them just for a second, and then they go right back to their lives. You could probably explode a bomb in the A&P, and people go right on doing what they're doing. Creatures of habit, same old boring, same old. And that's going to be important when we get to the end of the story, this idea of same old, okay? Bear with me. It's one thing to have a girl in a bathing suit down on the beach where, what with the glare, nobody can look at each other much anyway, and another thing in the cool of the A&P under the fluorescent lights against all those stacked packages, with her feet paddling along naked over our checkerboard green and cream rubber tile floor. Oh, Daddy, Stokesy said beside me. I feel so faint. Darling, I said, hold me tight. Stokesy's married, with 2 babies chalked up on his fuselage already. But as far as I can tell, that's the only difference. He's 22 and I was 19 this April. Is it done? He asked, the responsible married man finding his voice. I forgot to say he thinks he's going to be manager some sunny day, maybe in 1990, when it's called the Great Alexandrov and Petrovsky Tea Company or something. Way up in 1990. But there's a nod to the Cold War going on. What he meant was, our town is 5 miles from the beach with a big summer colony out on the point. We're right in the middle of town, and the women generally put on a shirt or shorts or something before they get out of the car into the street. And anyway, these are usually women with 6 children and varicose veins mapping their legs, and nobody, including them, could care less. As I say, we're right in the middle of town, and if you stand at our front doors, you can see 2 banks and the Congregational Church and the newspaper store, and 3 real estate offices and about 27 old freeloaders tearing up Central Street because the sewer broke again. It's not as if we're on the Cape. We're north of Boston, and there's people in this town who haven't seen the ocean for 20 years. So it took a little bit, but now we know the setting, Cape Cod. If you look at your footnote there, you see the southeastern area of Massachusetts, a place of many resorts and beaches. They're a little north of Boston. They're not on the Cape, he says. The girls had reached the meat counter and were asking McMahon something. He pointed, they pointed, and they shuffled out of sight behind a pyramid of Diet Delight peaches. All that was left for us to see was old McMahon patting his mouth and looking after them, sizing up their joints. Poor kids, I began to feel sorry for them. They couldn't help it. Now here comes the sad part of the story. At least my family says it's sad, but I don't think it's so sad myself. The store was pretty empty, it being Thursday afternoon, so there was nothing much to do except lean on the register and wait for the girls to show up again. The whole store was like a pinball machine. I didn't know which tunnel they come out of. After a while, they come around out of the far aisle, around the light bulbs, records at discount of the Caribbean Six or Tony Martin Sings or some such gunk you wonder why they waste the wax on, 6 packs of candy bars, and plastic toys done up in cellophane that fall apart when a kid looks at them anyway. Around they come, Queenie still leading the way and holding a little gray jar in her hand. Slots 3 through 7 are unmanned, and I could see her wondering between Stokes and me. But Stokesy, with his usual luck, draws an old party in baggy gray pants who stumbles up with 4 giant cans of pineapple juice. What do these bums do with all that pineapple juice? I've often asked myself. So the girls come to me. Queenie puts down the jar, and I take it into my fingers icy cold. Kingfish fancy herring snacks in pure sour cream, 49 cents. Now her hands are empty. Not a ring or bracelet, bare as God made them, and I wonder where the money's coming from. Still with that prim look, she lifts a folded dollar bill out of the hollow at the center of her nubbed pink top. The jar went heavy in my hand. Really, I thought that was so cute. Then everybody's luck begins to run out. Lingle comes in from haggling with a truck full of cabbage in the lot and is about to scull into the door marked manager, behind which he hides all day when the girls touch his eye. Lingle's pretty dreary, teaches Sunday school and the rest, but he doesn't miss that much. He comes over and says, "Girls, this isn't the beach." Queenie blushes, though maybe it's just a brush of sunburn I was noticing for the first time now that she was so close. My mother asked me to pick up a jar of herring snacks. Her voice kind of startled me, the way voices do when you see the people first, coming out so flat and dumb, yet kind of tony too, the way it tricked over pick up and snacks. All of a sudden, I slid right down her voice into her living room. Her father and the other men were standing around in ice cream coats and bow ties, and the women were in sandals picking up herring snacks on toothpicks off a big glass plate, and they were all holding drinks the color of water with olives and sprigs of mint in them. When my parents have somebody over, they get lemonade, and if it's a real racy affair, Schlitz in tall glasses with "they'll do it every time" cartoons stenciled on. See the economic disparity between her family and the fancy ice cream coats and bow ties and mixed drinks, and Schlitz beer is Schlitz malt liquor was really cheap, basically water, which passed as beer or malt liquor. "That's all right," Lingle said, "but this isn't the beach." His repeating this struck me as funny, as if it had just occurred to him, and he had been thinking all these years that A&P was a great big dune and he was the head lifeguard. He didn't like my smiling. As I say, he doesn't miss much, but he concentrates on giving the girls that sad Sunday school superintendent stare. Queenie's blush is no sunburn now, and the plump one in plaid that I liked better from the back, a really sweet can, pipes up, "We weren't doing any shopping. We just came in for the one thing." "That makes no difference," Lingle tells her, and I could see from the way his eyes went that he hadn't noticed she was wearing a two-piece before. "We want you decently dressed when you come in here." "We are decent," Queenie says suddenly, her lower lip pushing, getting sore now that she remembers her place, a place from which the crowd that runs the A&P must look pretty crummy, fancy herring snacks flashing her very blue eyes. "Girls, I don't want to argue with you. After this, come in here with your shoulders covered. It's our policy." He turns his back. "That's policy for you. Policy is what the kingpins want. What the others want is juvenile delinquency." All this while, the customers have been showing up with their carts, but, sheep, seeing a scene, they'd all bunched up on Stokesy, who shook open a paper bag as gently as peeling a peach, not wanting to miss a word. I could feel in the silence everybody getting nervous, most of all Lingle, who asked me, "Sammy, have you rung up their purchase?" I thought and said, "No," but it wasn't about that I was thinking. I go through the punches, 4, 9, grocery total. It's more complicated than you think, and after you do it often enough, it begins to make a little song that you hear words to. And in my case, "Hello, bing, there you gung, happy peep, peep, bull, splat," splat being the drawer flying out. I uncreased the bill, tenderly as you may imagine, it just having come from between the two smoothest scoops of vanilla I'd ever known were there, and pass a half and a penny into her narrow pink palm, and nestle the herrings in a bag and twist its neck and hand it over, all the time thinking. The girls, and who'd blame them, are in a hurry to get out, so I say, "I quit," to Lingle, quick enough for them to hear, hoping they'll stop and watch me, their unsuspected hero. They keep right on going into the electric eye, the door flies open, and they flicker across the lot to their car, Queenie in plaid and big tall Goonie, not that as raw material she was so bad, leaving me with Lingle and a kink in his eyebrow. "Did you say something, Sammy?" "I said I quit." "I thought you did." "You didn't have to embarrass them. It was they who were embarrassing us." I started to say something that came out fiddle-de-doo. It's a saying of my grandmother's, and I know she would have been pleased. I don't think you know what you're saying, Lingle said. I know you don't, I said, but I do. I pulled the bow at the back of my apron and started shrugging it off my shoulders. A couple customers that had been heading for my slot began to knock against each other like scared pigs in a chute. Lingle sighs and begins to look very patient and old and gray. He's been a friend of my parents for years. Sammy, you don't want to do this to your mom and dad, he tells me. It's true, I don't. But it seems to me that once you begin a gesture, it's fatal not to go through with it. I'm going to ask you the question, and me also are going to ask you to come back to this line. So think about what he just said here. But it seems to me that once you begin a gesture, it's fatal not to go through with it. I fold the apron. Sammy stitched in red on the pocket and put it on the counter and dropped the bow tie on top of it. The bow tie is theirs if you ever wondered. You'll feel this for the rest of your life, Lingle says, and I know that's true too. But remembering how he made that pretty girl blush makes me so scrunchy inside. I punch the no sale tab and the machine whirs beep full and the drawer splats out. One advantage to this scene taking place in summer, I can follow this up with a clean exit. There's no fumbling around getting your coat and galoshes. I just saunter into the electric eye in my white shirt that my mother ironed the night before, and the door heaves itself open, and outside the sunshine is skating around on the asphalt. I look around for my girls, but they're gone, of course. There wasn't anybody but some young maid screaming with her children about some candy they didn't get by the door of Powder Blue Falcon station wagon. Wow, I butchered that terribly, I'm sorry. There wasn't anybody but some young married screaming with her children about some candy they didn't get by the door of a powder blue Falcon station wagon. Looking back in the big windows over the bags of peat moss and aluminum lawn furniture stacked on the pavement, I could see Lingle in my place in the slot, checking the sheep through. His face was dark gray and his back stiff as if he just had an injection of iron, and my stomach kind of fell as I felt how hard the world was going to be to me hereafter. I could see Lingle in my place in the slot, checking the sheep through. His face was dark gray and his back stiff, as if he'd just had an injection of iron. And my stomach kind of fell as I felt how hard the world was going to be to me hereafter. Right? All right. Please do the questions 1 through 4. I'll put it on the web too, but do the questions 1 through 4. I'll put it so you could do it online. But look at question number 4. Why does Sammy say I quit so abruptly? What does he mean when he says that the world is going to be hard to him after his experience at the A&P? And I want that last sentence again, right? I could see Lingle in my place in the slot, checking the sheep through. Let's go back to our conversation about sheep. His face was dark gray and his back stiff, as if he just had an injection of iron. And my stomach kind of fell as I felt how hard the world was going to be to me hereafter. And earlier, just 2 seconds earlier, he says, I thought he said, talking about Lingle says, no, I just read it. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. That he's looking old and dark gray and with stiff back and the shot of injection of iron. Sorry. All right. I know we're not together, so we usually talk about this. So let me give you a clue so you feel like you're on the right track with this. Countercultural. Streaming, paddling against the stream. Think about that in that last question. What do I mean by countercultural? It's paddling against the stream, and how he says life's going to be hard for him, and why is it fatal? Why is it fatal to quit a gesture? I mean, once you start a gesture, why is it fatal not to follow through? Okay. All right, we'll pick back up next time with another story. Hope you enjoyed our first fireside chat. I know I've got nothing on Roosevelt, but it was fun nonetheless. And without further ado, Jen, you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye, good luck, and be good to yourself.
Any words of wisdom for the seniors who are struggling through this time? Just that, be good to yourself.
Yeah, just try to think of the positive. I know you're missing a lot, and it really stinks, for lack of a better word. I'm sure you can think of a few, but you will have hopefully some good memories from this, something that no one else can say happened,
Right.
and you will keep your health.
Yeah.
Too.
Put that on your resume, right? All right, be happy and be healthy. All right, see you next time.